Cynthia. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? How are you in this beautiful afternoon? How are you with the news in the morning, right? They say that we are going to be working from home until May, right? Actually until June, right? All right. Yes, it's very hot. I know it's very, very hot. Okay. Oh, hello, Trini. Good afternoon. Hello. Okay. Well, hello, Rocio. Rocio is joining us too. Hello, Rocio. Hello, hello. Okay. Let's get started today. Let's get started today. Uh, Today we're going to get started. First of all, we are going to review a little bit about what we did, right? So just to remind you, we are working on managing the teaching and learning process, right? On the previous session, we were talking about the language the teachers should use with the students, right? We talk about what it is appropriate and what it is not appropriate. We said that it is important to be formal, but it is also important to grade our language at the level of our students, right? We're talking about the different functions, which are the reasons for the teacher to use the language. We talk about the way we give instructions, explanations, narrating, eliciting. We talk about prompting. We talk about correcting, checking learning, and conveying meaning. Excellent. We also talk about the different language that the students use towards the teachers or the other classmates. We said that it is important that the students have useful language at the beginning of the school year or at the beginning of the sessions or at the beginning of the activities, depending on the case, so the students can use this language the whole course or through the class or the activity. Then we were talking about different types of mistakes, right? We said that we have written mistakes and that we have also oral mistakes, right? We said that depending on the type of mistakes is the correction we're going to give to our students. We said that in the case of written mistakes, we can use correction codes. So our students can identify the mistakes. And that way the students can correct the mistakes by themselves. We also said that these correction codes can help the students identify mistakes easier, right? And we are training the students for international certifications. Whenever they have to take an international exam, they will be able to identify mistakes. In many of the international exams, the majority of them have some sections where the students have to identify mistakes. So these type of activities will help them. Okay. All right. And finally, before we left, we were talking about the different correction strategies that we can use with our students, right? We said that different correction strategies that we can use when working with oral production, right? We talk about the timeline. That you basically draw a timeline in order to explain to students where in the timeline the tenses are and how the tenses are going to be used. We also use the finger correction, right? That we said that is basically when you don't have the board next to you, right? Or you have the student a little bit far and you want to show the student the mistake, so you use your fingers so the student can identify the mistake, right? For example, if you say something like the student makes a mistake, like the people, like right here, the people, has many cars, right? You say the people has many cars. You tell the student the people has. No, this is a mistake. Okay, so the people has. All right, what it should be? People is plural. So instead of people has, you say people have, right? So you can show the mistake or where the mistake are, and you can also show mistakes in the pronunciation, mistakes in the grammar, mistakes in vocabulary. So you can use your fingers for that, right? We talk about the gestures and facial expressions. Gestures and facial expressions, no? Like, for example, if the student says something like, I'm married. You say, married, married. Oh, married? I don't know, right? You can make some facial expressions, some gestures, right? And the students can identify they have made some mistakes. Okay? So that is one. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. There's a lot of people saying hello, right? We have who? Maria Isabel. Good afternoon, Maria Isabel. Nice to see you. Okay. Another strategy that we can use to correct our students is the phonemic symbols. The phonemic symbols. Do you guys know the phonemic symbols? Yes? No? So? Some phonemic symbols. Yes. Good, good. Excellent. Good. Okay. Well, the phonemic symbols are important. For example, a common mistake that my students make, a common mistake, and sometimes you don't need to use all the phonemic symbols, but sometimes some phonemic symbols are key, right? They are key because they are very useful, right? For example, my students tend to make mistakes in the pronunciation of the verbs in past, right? The verbs in past. Even when they are in intermediate, even when they are in advanced level, right? My students tend to make these mistakes. These mistakes is basically because when they learn it, they didn't learn the phonemic symbols, or they didn't learn the difference, or they didn't learn the rule. It is easy for them to make those type of mistakes. Hello, Nazaria, right? For example, the other day I was having a class, an online class, an advanced class, and this student was making mistakes with the words, the verbs in past, smile, the verb clean, the verb. What other verb was she making mistakes with? Well, they were moved, which in past we say smiled, cleaned, moved, right? Smiled, cleaned, moved. Yes, well, these are the mistakes my student was making, right? I know there are many other regular verbs, but I'm just pointing out the mistake my student made. Okay, now my student was saying smiled, clean it, and move it, right? Instead of smiled, cleaned, and moved, right? So I asked my students in the class, hey guys, do you know when to use one or the other pronunciation? Advanced students, right? Not basic, not intermediate, advanced. Some of them are English teachers. I have to say it. Some of them are English teacher. And actually, the student making the mistakes was an English teacher. And I have to say that she started her career. It's not like any other English teacher, like sometimes some English teachers, don't study. This English teacher studied, right? And she didn't know this, right? So I told them, I stopped the class and I told them, okay, at advanced level, we need to have a better pronunciation. And if you want to have a better pronunciation, it is important to understand when to pronounce one or the other. So something that I did with them is that I told them, okay, first of all, I explained then that we have different sounds, right? In the consonants and in the vowels, right? And that we can divide these sounds into types. I told them we can have voice sounds and we can have unvoiced sounds, right? Mhm. And then we made a list. We made a list. This is what we did. Let me show you. I'm going to put this in red. We made a list with some regular verbs. For example, here, some of you wrote the verbs mhm, walk, work, dance, study, smile, live, like, mhm, I don't know, need, chat, mhm, mix, mhm, move. Excellent. So I wrote those verbs on the board, and I told my students, okay, I want you to identify them. Look, voiced means that the sound makes some vibrations with your vocal cords. So right here inside your throat, you have some vocal cords. And these vocal cords are in charge of producing the sounds, right? Now, when the vocal cords vibrate, it means that the sounds are voiced. When the vocal cords do not vibrate, it means that the sound is unvoiced. So I told them to put two fingers. If you want, you can try this. You can try it. You can do it. Probably I cannot see you, but you can do it. And I told them to put two fingers on their throat, right? And I told them, okay, repeat the word walk, walk, walk. At the beginning, you can feel the vibration. Walk, walk. But at the end, you don't feel any vibration. Walk. The important thing with the regular verbs is the ending, right? If the ending is voiced, then you would add a the at the end, a sound at the end is the sound, which it sounds like a the, right? If the sound is on voice at the end, if the sound of the regular verb is on voice at the end, then you would use the sound. The now, I usually tell them, right? You need to feel your mouth, right? So this is not a letter. This is a sound, and this sound is the sound. Your tongue, you put it behind your upper teeth, and you make vibrate your local cords. And it with the tongue, it's in the same place behind your upper teeth. But instead of using your vocal cords, you just blow air and you just say that's the difference. You might use or that's the difference. Okay? So basically that's what I tell my students. Then we practice and we say that walk, walk, at the end doesn't vibrate. So it is an unvoiced verb. So when you make it in past, it's unvoiced, you make it with a t. And you say walked, 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 walked. I walked. Okay, that's how you say it. Now, you guys help me. You teachers help me. Like you can feel it if you want. Work is work. Voiced or unvoiced? Yeah, work is unvoiced. Unvoiced. So since work is unvoiced, the pronunciation is with the t, t sound. Now, I always emphasize that these are sounds, not letters, right? These are phonemes, phonemic symbols. So I say worked, walked, worked, right? Dance. Is dance voiced or unvoiced? You can feel it. Dance. You need to feel with your fingers the vibration at the end, not at the beginning. At the beginning, every single vowel is voiced, but at the end is the most important. In this case, dance, the end, dance vibrates. No, it doesn't vibrate. So this is an unvoiced verb. So since it's unvoiced, in past you say danced, danced, danced. T. So we say walked, worked, danced. Mhm. Now study. Is study voiced or unvoiced? Yes, study is voiced, right? Because you say study, right? So since study is voiced, in past you say it with studied, studied, right? Variation. Leave, is leave voiced or unvoiced? Leave vibration, right? So since leave is voiced in past, you say, oh, sorry, I skip smile, right? Well, smile, leave is voiced, so you say leave, smile, you say smiled, right? Both of them are voiced. Like is like voice or unvoiced? It's on voice, right? So since like is on voice, you say liked, 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 right? Need. In the case of need and in the case of chat, we have something special, right? When, this is when the verb ends in the sounds, not in the letters. The sounds. Because remember, here we're talking about sounds. We're not talking about letters. These are sounds. Okay. So if they finish in the sounds or z, then the pronunciation in past must be it. It. It's a short E with a Z, right? It, it, it. Now the symbol says E, it. So that's the symbol. It's it, right? Not it, right? It, not e. So it. So you say needed, needed, no needed. That's what I tell my students. Look at the sound. The sound is it. So you say needed, needed, no needed. You say chatted, no chatted, right? Sorry, I got chatted. Chat. Okay. Mix. Mhm. Mix. What do you think? Is voiced or unvoiced? Mix. There is no sound, there is no phonemic symbol for the X, right? The phonemic symbol of there is no phonemic symbol for the X. Usually when you represent the sound of the X, usually is like this. So the sound of the X would be X. So in this case it's mix. And the S doesn't vibrate, right? So in this case is mixed. It's unvoiced. So you say mixed. Mhm. Move, the last one. Move is move voice or unvoiced. It's voice, so you say move, move, right? So I explain this to my students, and I always tell them, there is no easy way, right? There is no an easy way. This is the easy way, right? So you need to pay attention to your vocal cords. You need to pay attention to whether the verb vibrates or doesn't vibrate at the end. And according to that, then you can add the best pronunciation in past, right? So this is one use I give to the phonemic symbols. Another use that I give to the phonemic symbols is the use with the schwa symbol. Do you identify the schwa symbol? There is no key in the board for the schwa symbol, so I'm gonna try to draw it. Mhm. That is the schwa symbol. Yeah, it looks like an A, but it's not an A, right? It's like an E, but upside down. So this is the schwa symbol. The schwa, that's the name. Schwa. I'm gonna write it here. Schwa. So that is the schwa symbol, and the sound of that symbol is more or less like uh, 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 uh. Right? So sometimes my students say, well, my students have a very strong accent, right? Because we are Mexicans, we are Latins, right? And sometimes my students say something like, what are your name? Right? Very strong, right? Very strong. What are your name? Right? And I tell them, okay, sounds good. It's not that you have a bad pronunciation, but the thing is that in English we use other sounds. For example, in English we have the sound schwa, which is uh uh it's like that. Like I always tell them the example, like if someone punches you on your stomach, and you make like right. So I always give them that example about the schwa. So I tell them, when you say this, you don't say ar, you say er, 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 and then er, er, because it's the R, and the R in English is different than in Spanish. In Spanish is r, in English is r, r. The tongue is like touching the upper part of your mouth, and then you say right? Uh, er. What are? The same with what. You don't say what, you say what, right? And this symbol is very common in many of our words, right? In English, right? Like when you say gonna, right? Ga, you don't say go, no, you say g, like with a schwa, gonna, it's two schwas actually there. Another way is like in the same article, the, right? My students say, teacher, you say da or they, right? Well, depending on the vowel, but you don't say da, right? You say the, uh, 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 right? Yeah, it's both, as I said, depending on the following sound. But as I said, it's not da, right? It's uh, right? So this is another symbol that I use a lot. Uh, what other symbol I use a lot? I also use a lot the and the right. And it's important. Oh no, no, sorry. There is one that I use a lot, that is the short and the long vowel sounds, right? For example, the E, right? Sometimes my student says, teacher, like, what is the difference when you say these and you say these, right? So I tell them, well, is the sound, right? One is short, the other is long, right? So you say this, right? It's a short sound, this, right? When you say these, is a longer sound, right? Is. So it's another example, or bean and bean, right? uh, and many other examples. So the phonemic symbols can help you, right? The phonemic symbols can help you a lot. There are 44 phonemic symbols. There are 44 sounds in English, different than in Spanish, because in Spanish we only have 27 letters, right? So in Spanish is literal. You know, the letter you use is the sound, but in English you have different graphemes and different phonemes, right? So I use them. It's not that my students are experts on phonemic symbols, but I use them to explain them and to clarify, right, where the mistake is. Sometimes they don't understand the mistake, but when you show them, some students, or they, like, think about this. We have, do you know how many multiple intelligences we have? Does anybody know? How many? No, we don't have four. We have many more. Closed. At the beginning, there used to be, yes, we have nine. Thank you, Nazaria. We have nine multiple intelligences, right? And we have the same, we have 7 learning styles, right? So even though we have 9 multiple intelligences and 7 learning styles, the majority of our students would have, at a certain degree, at a great degree, 3 multiple intelligences and 3 learning styles more developed, which are auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. So the majority of our students are those multiple intelligences and those learning styles. So think that in your classroom you have 30 students, right? So from those 30 students, 10, if you have 30, 10 would be auditory, 10 would be kinesthetic, and 10 would be visual, right? And sometimes those visual students don't understand when they listen. The auditory students understand when they listen, right? Just tell them the word, you tell them the difference between this and these is the longer sound, and they listen and they understand. But sometimes the visual students don't understand when they listen, they understand when they see, right? So you write this on the board and the visual students say like, oh, I got it. I got it, teacher, thank you. Okay. So it's with our students, it's more like having a bunch of resources that we can apply. Because if you try to apply just one resource to your students, it's like a teacher, it's like a carpenter that only has a hammer and try to solve everything with the same hammer, right? So there are some things you cannot do with a hammer, right? So you need to have a bunch of tools. The same as teachers, we need to have a bunch of resources, right, that we can use for different situations and for different students. Okay, so this is about uh, phonemic symbols. If you want to know more about phonemic symbols, there is a special workshop that we have about phonemic symbols. Actually, Nazaria is taking it, right? So, and I guess Nicte or we can give you more information about it in another time. Okay? All right. Another correction technique that we can use is the echo correction, right? What is that? Okay, what is echo correction? It's very easy, right? The majority of us do it, right? The student says something. I don't know. The student says, "She watch TV every day," right? And you say, "She watch," right? You repeat it, right? So what do? You repeat it. She watch. She watch TV. And when you repeat it, the student knows that there is a mistake, right? So echo correction, and sometimes you can put some rising intonation, like she watched TV. She watched TV. Really? And then the student says, oh, she watches TV, right? Okay, identifying the mistake, you can write what the student said on the board, right? And tell the students that that is something that's something that I guess many of us do, right? For example, the student says she watched TV every day, and I say she watch, and I write it on the board, right? She watched TV every day, and I say look at the board, right? She watched TV every day. There's something wrong with that. What do you think? Oh, she watches. Yes, you say she watches. Uh, like one more time, right? Sometimes you because you use echo correction, right, and you just repeat it, and auditory students might understand. With the finger technique, kinesthetic students might understand, and by writing on the board, visual students might understand. Right, so different techniques would apply for different students, right? So this would be more for visual, the finger correction would be more for kinesthetic, but the echo would be more for auditory. Okay, all right. Not correcting at the time the mistake is made. That is something that we were talking about last class. I told you, right? Like sometimes, especially when working on fluency, it is very you skip the mistake, right? You just skip it, right? You just don't pay attention to it, and then later, right, you tell the students the mistakes, right? You just monitor it, you just make notes, and later you just point out the mistakes and make the students to check them. Peer correction and self-correction is important too, right? You can do this activity. I recommend it a lot, right? You can tell the students, okay, we're going to work on groups of three, right? Groups of three. We're going to practice a dialogue, right? For example, Nazaria and Alejandro, you two together with Blanca, Nazaria, and Alejandro, okay? So Blanca, Nazaria, and Alejandro, okay. Two students will practice dialogue, and the third student would pay attention and listen to the pronunciation, okay? You don't need to interrupt. You just need to make notes or underline. This is a very good activity. I recommend it a lot, right? So two students practice the dialogue, and the third student only monitors and makes notes, right? Yes, only monitors, right? And makes notes. And at the end, the third student tells the other two students, oh, okay, I think you made this mistake here, here, and here. Usually teachers tell me, and what about if the monitor makes mistakes? Yeah, if the monitor makes mistakes, that's not a problem because you are going to be there, right, as a teacher. And if he doesn't know or she doesn't know, the monitor doesn't know, then you can approach that team and you can help them, right? So that's why you are there, to help, right? But why is this activity important? Well, it is important because that way you are training your students to identify mistakes in pronunciation, and that way whenever the monitor needs to practice the same dialogue, he's going to be more careful, right? Because he previously identified the mistakes on his or her classmates, and now he's not going to make them, right? So that's with peer correction. With self correction, the most beautiful tool that we have right now is technology, right? So for self correction, I think there's nothing better than WhatsApp notes. WhatsApp notes. That's what I use, right? That's what I use. I usually tell my students, okay, I want you for homework to send me the vocabulary list, right? So there is a vocabulary list, and I tell them, okay, for homework, you're going to send me the vocabulary list. You need to pronounce it, right? Every word, right? Every word, right? And I, well, it depends, right? I understand some teachers agree on sharing the WhatsApp to their students. Some teachers don't. That's up to you. In my case, I share it. I have no problem. But I work in a school which is a language center, so the majority of my students are adults. So it depends, right? So I previously sent to the students. I previously sent myself, right? Myself, myself saying a recording of myself saying the vocabulary. So I send it to them and I tell them, listen to it, and then you record yourself. And then they send me their audios, and I tell them, you have a problem with number 1, 2, 3, 5. Listen to my pronunciation again and correct your pronunciation. So they need to listen to me, and then they need to listen to them, and then they correct their mistakes. And honestly, it works fantastic. It's a wonderful activity. The majority of the time, my students have improved their pronunciation a lot. Uh, at the beginning, it was difficult because they didn't know how to do it. At the beginning, they were struggling because they couldn't identify the mistakes. But with the last homeworks, the majority of my students don't make mistakes. Yes, I do it by WhatsApp. I do it by WhatsApp. I have my students even recording questions. And let me show you some. I have my students even recording long questions, right? 1 minute. This is an advanced group, and my students record, right, their questions.
Okay, my friends want to go out on a weekend.
They do it. Then I give them feedback, right? Like, hey, you need to do this. I write the words and everything, and they need to send it again. So I do it on WhatsApp. You can do it on Facebook. I guess you can do it on Facebook. Honestly, I haven't used Facebook. Honestly, because for me, WhatsApp is more practical. But I guess you can do it on Facebook. Yeah, I guess, right? You can send voice notes on Facebook too. I guess. But it's a really good technique. Really, really good technique. Extremely recommendable. Okay. So that's for peer correction, self correction. Uh, Nowadays, if you're working online, I don't know if any of you is working online. This is an excellent homework that you can give your students. I don't know if you have the same problem that me, but since I started working online platforms like this platform is an awesome platform. But when it's about speaking, we have a lot of troubles. So I use the WhatsApp a lot for nowadays that we're working online, and it's working really good. These type of activities are working really good, and the students like them. Mhm. Okay, I'm waiting for Magda. She's writing something. Mhm. You can do this even with your little kids. I know some of you are working with kindergarten or elementary school. You can do it with them with kindergarten and elementary school. You don't be afraid of that, right? If your students, right, for example, are learning one song in English, well, you can tell the parents for homework, you need to record your daughter or you can record your son singing the song at home. That can be a homework, right? And I bet that would be an excellent homework. I haven't done it because I don't work with children right now, but I bet that would be an excellent homework because number one, you are sure the students are practicing at home, and number two, the parents are involved. And number three, sometimes the parents want to see what the students are doing at home. And in this way, the parents can actually see that the students are singing and learning, right? They are always like, what are you teaching to them? What are you teaching to them? What is the teacher doing in the class? What you can tell them, record the numbers from 1 to 5 with your son or with your daughter in English, right? And I bet even for the kids will be really, really fun, right? The parents can tell, we're gonna record a video for your teacher, right? I guess would be really good. The presentations, for example, if you're working in middle school, I have a daughter. She's 14 years old. I have another daughter. She's 4 years old. And my 14-year-old daughter is in middle school. And right now she's working online and she's very enthusiastic about online classes. She liked them. I guess teenagers are more enthusiastic about online digital media and stuff like that. So you can even tell them, instead of making a presentation in the classroom, make the presentation for homework and send me the video. That would be awesome too, right? Okay, yeah, it's a great idea. Let me see. I have some questions. Sorry. Magda, can you share what is the name of the platform that you are using? The platform that I am using is the same platform you have here. The name of this platform is Click Meeting. Is this one? Click Meeting. Mhm. I use it because of two things. Number one, the presentations, right? Is bigger and the video is smaller, so you can see the whole presentation. Number two, you can record the classes, right? You can record the classes, you can share the classes to the students, not a problem. And number three is easy to enter, right? You receive the mail, you click the mail, you have an app for the cell phone, and you can also here, you can play the audios here. So that's what I am liking. That's what I like it, sorry. That's what I like it, because you can do everything here. And it's called that Click Meeting. Click Meeting. Click, let me write it. Click Meeting. That's the name. Mhm. And it's cheap. That's the best thing. It's very cheap. It has it's in dollars, but I guess the lowest one is like $35. It's way cheaper than Zoom or the others. Okay, here we have another question that you're seeing. Can we use it with our class too? Of course, you can use it with your class. Yes, it is great. Thanks. Okay, excellent. And finally, ignoring the mistakes. Not all the mistakes are errors, right? Not all the mistakes are errors. There are different types of errors, and there is one particular type of errors that probably you would better avoid. What is this type of error? It's called slips. Mhm. Sorry, slips. Mhm. Slip. It's like the word that we use when you sleep. Imagine you're walking on the street and the floor is wet, and then you just slip and you fall down. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can you hear me now? Yes. Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Like I pushed by accident the microphone mute button. Okay. Yeah. So I was saying that you're walking, right, and you fell down, right, because the floor was wet, but you fell down because the floor was wet and you didn't see it. So you were careless, right? It's not that you don't know how to walk. You know how to walk. It's just you didn't see it. You didn't pay attention, right? You were distracted. Probably you were thinking about something else, right? So it's just that. In English, it's the same. We have advanced level. We all speak English, right? I speak English. I have a C1 level. I have many certifications, but I make mistakes. When I write, I make mistakes. When I speak, I make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes all the time. All the time, I make a lot of mistakes. And it's not that I don't know English. I know English. The problem is that they are slips, right? Slips, right? Sometimes we make slips, right? Sometimes you are just thinking about something else, you are distracted, you are writing too fast, or you're speaking too fast, right? Or you're worried about something else, and you just make mistakes. So sometimes students make mistakes that they know. They know that word. They know that structure. But it's just that they made a mistake. It was sleep, right? Especially with intermediate and advanced students. With intermediate and advanced students, usually you would focus more on fluency, right? That's what they want. My advanced students usually tell me, teacher, what I want is to produce more English. So if you want to do that, you need to correct less, right? And give them freedom to speak more, right? So ignore the sleeps, right? If they are sleeps, if you notice they are sleeps, just ignore them. That way your students will gain confidence. And that's the most important. Okay, for written mistakes, I previously told you you need to use a correction code. Um, I didn't send you the email with the presentation. I'm really sorry. I just sent the one for phonology. I forgot this one. Today I'm gonna send you the presentation, and I'm gonna send you the correction code, and I'm gonna send you the one from Cambridge and the one that I made. And it's important that you have it and you use it for written mistakes. You can correct it by yourself. I mean, you can correct the students' work. The students can correct each other, or they can correct it by themselves. The same way you can ignore some mistakes, but all of these using the correction code. The correction code is the key for written mistakes. Okay, I know is it takes time, right, at the beginning for your students to get used to the correction code, but once they are used to the correction code, it's way easier, right? You save a lot of time grading because you just underline the mistakes and they just correct them by themselves, right? Instead of grading word by word, this is not correct, you should write this, and so on. So, okay? So that's the correction code usefulness. We correct mistakes depending on the type of mistakes and the purpose of the activity. We do not correct every mistake of our learners. We do not correct every mistake our learners make. So think about the purpose of the activity. Remember what I told you. I guess I told you that human brain cannot focus at many things at a time. We focus at one thing at a time, especially men. So if you focus on pronunciation, if you're working on pronunciation, work on pronunciation, accuracy, accuracy, grammar, grammar, spelling, spelling. Tell your students to pay attention to that, work on that. If you do that, well, if you set a specific objective for the activity, specific objective, it would be easier for your students to focus on that objective and to achieve it. Mhm. Intonation, don't miss intonation. Intonation is key. Stress. I don't know, probably because I have a lot of advanced level students, and they make a lot of mistakes, and sometimes the mistakes are not because of their pronunciation. The mistakes is because of their intonation or their stress. For example, a student made mistakes with this word. She says, what does she says? She says, Eve, Eve. What does she says? Event? No, event. The event. Ah, she says that the event, the event, the event, and she always says the event. And the same with this other effort, 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 the effort. And I was like, the effort is because of the stress. He's stressing the last syllable, right? We say the event, right? The effort, right? That's what we say. So effort, event. The stress is at the beginning, not at the end, and it's just the stress. It's not the pronunciation. She's making the right sound. It's just the stress. So sometimes you need to pay attention on the stress, on the intonation too. Okay. Good. Good. So far, so good. Yes, everyone. Excellent. Ready for one activity? I got one activity here. Oh, we did this one already. Sorry. Mhm. Good. Okay. Okay, we have this activity here. It says for questions 1 to 8, look at the situations in which teacher corrects students and at the correcting strategy listed. Uh-huh. So look at the situations and the strategies. Two of the reasons are appropriate. I mean, two of the reasons that the teacher is using is appropriate for each activity. One is not appropriate, right? So we need to read it and we need to decide which is not an appropriate mhm, reason for correcting this. It says make reasons A, B, or C, which is not appropriate. It says a student says the word August with poor pronunciation. Probably she says or he says August instead of August. So in open class, I'm gonna show you in a little bit what open class and all this means. But in open class means like to everyone, right? I mean, not in private, right? So everybody's there, right? The teacher says the word correctly and asks the students to repeat it. Writes the word in phonemic script on the whiteboard. Asks the students to say the word again with no correction and then moves on. Which of these corrections, A, B, or C, do you guys think is not appropriate? Which is not appropriate? Mm, okay. Oh my goodness. Many different ideas. Many different ideas. And even Alejandro gave us a reason, right? Why not? But I need to say that Karina, Nazaria, and Blanca are correct. Good job, Karina, Nazaria, and Blanca. The one that is not appropriate is letter C. I'm going to tell you, in open class doesn't make a difference. Actually, it helps. If the teacher says the word correctly and asks the students to repeat it, well, that is usually something we do, right? For example, if the students are reading and then one student says August, we say August, right? It's like the way you say it. You don't need to be mean. You can just say August, right? Can you repeat? August. Thank you. Okay? You don't need to be mean, right? Writes the word in phonemic script. This is a good idea too. You can write the phonemic script. If the students know the phonemic symbols, they can identify it and the student can say, oh, you might say August. Yes. But in the letter C, it says, ask the student to say the word again. So the teacher says, for example, the student says, August. And the teacher says, repeat, August. The teacher doesn't correct. It says with no correction. The teacher continues. Okay, thank you. Fulanito. So if the teacher doesn't make any correction at all, the student would never know that he made a mistake, right? So in this case, the one that is not correct is the letter C. Mhm. All right, let's look at the next one, which is also number one. I don't know why. Students tell stories about themselves in groups of three. The teacher corrects the student's language quietly as sorry, a student tells the stories about themselves in groups of three. The teacher corrects a student's language quietly as she is monitoring the group storytelling. After the group stage, by focusing on problems she noted down during the stage. Later, when she asked the weaker students to tell their stories to the whole class. What do you think is not correct? Yeah, in this case, applies what Alejandro noted down previously, right? Is letter C, the one that is not correct. So imagine the situation: you got groups of three, and the students are telling stories, and you are walking around, right? So the letter A says that quietly the teacher is walking around monitoring, and the teacher approaches one group and tells that group, good job, but you say this, not this, and you say this, not that. And the group says, oh, thank you, teacher, right? Probably the teacher is walking around. The letter B implies that the teacher is walking around and making notes, right? Like this mistake, this mistake. And then, right, when the class is over, the teacher, you know, tells the mistakes to the students. But in the letter C, the teacher says that he asked the weaker students to tell their stories to the whole class. So that would be mean, because if he has the weaker students would make many mistakes, right? And that would be not productive for the activity. So, and that would be, and they would probably feel bad, right? So letter A and letter B are appropriate. Number two says, in controlled practice exercise on the past continuous, a pre-intermediate student says, I driving down the road when it happened. The teacher uses hand gestures to show that there is missing a word, probably the finger technique. I driving, I driving, missing something. Probably the teacher mimes driving to show the student that she has understood. Or the teacher points to the model sentence on the whiteboard to remind the student of the form. What do you think is not appropriate? Good job. Yes, the one that is not appropriate is the letter B, right? Because there is no correction, right? And there is no need for that, right? So if the teacher mimes driving, the student says, I driving, and the teacher says, it doesn't make any sense, right? So in this case, there is no correction with the letter B. So letter A and letter C are correct. Letter B is not appropriate. Number three, at the start of the class, when the students are talking in open class, one of the learners say, the film was interesting. The teacher says, interesting or interested? The teacher says, there is a grammar problem there, Maria. What about your weekend, Hassan? The teacher says, you were interested, so the film was, with rising intonation. You were interested, so the film was, with rising intonation. What do you think is not correct? Is not appropriate? Yes, what it is not appropriate is undoubtedly letter B, right? There is a grammar problem. Okay, well, there is a vocabulary problem, well, like to begin with. And what is the problem? Probably the student doesn't even understand what problem it is. Okay, so it is letter B. Okay, number four. In a controlled writing practice activity, a learner makes several mistakes in recently studied language. The teacher marks the writing using a correction code, gives the writing to appear to correct, ignores the mistakes in the writing. Yes, because it's something they recently saw. you cannot ignore it, right? Because you recently saw it. So you cannot expect that your students already use this perfectly. So you need to help them more. So since it's something they recently saw, you cannot ignore it. Probably you ignore some mistakes when it's advanced level and they are slips, but this is not advanced level. And this is something that you recently saw, so you cannot ignore it. So the one that is not appropriate, it is the letter C. Mhm. Perfect, everyone. Okay, good job. Okay, we're going to get going. Now, correcting our students is important, right? Identifying the types of mistakes, it's really important too. But the only thing that is much more important than correction when we talk about errors, because remember that last class we said that errors are natural part of the learning process and they help the learning process. But the only way correction and errors can make the students to learn better, to learn faster, right, and to achieve their goals, the only way is through feedback. Mhm. Feedback. Mhm. Giving feedback is giving information to learners about their learning, right? So, feedback can focus on learners' language or skills, the ideas on their work, their behavior, their attitude to learning, or their progress. Mhm. Sometimes we give feedback to the whole class. At other times, we give feedback to small groups or individual learners. The purpose of feedback is to motivate learners and to help them understand what their problems are and how they can improve. This is very important, right? Now, it happens to me uh, a lot, right? And as I said, I have many of my students are teachers. They are not like regular students. The majority of my students are teachers. Probably I have like one or two that are not, but the majority are teachers. And for example, when I check their writing, when I check their speaking, when I check their grammar or something like that, they usually tell me, how did I do it, teacher? How do you like my work? Right? So I check it, I mark the mistakes, I use the correction code, right? I tell them you got this wrong, you got this right. But they need they need me to tell them you did it good, you did it bad, you did it so, you are improving. It is not enough with marking the mistakes. It is not enough with just telling them a score. They want me to tell them if they have improved or not. They want to hear me saying it. They want me to give them feedback. And they are adults. We usually sometimes think that feedback is more for kids, right? That we write a note like, good job, Fulanito, you are improving. I like the way you work this week, right? Or your homework is better. We usually think that, but not. We need to continue giving feedback. It's not only throwing happy faces to the kindergarten students, right? It's not only grading notes to the elementary school students. We need to continue doing it through the whole process. If you're a teacher, you need to continue giving feedback, right? Feedback, as it says right here, can be not only on the language, but also on their attitude, on their behavior, and on their progress. Sometimes we give only scores, right? Especially on exams, right? And we give the score and we give the score like a 10, an 8, a 7, a 6. And sometimes, I don't know, you are in high school or fifth or sixth grade or fourth grade of elementary or middle school, or you're working with adults and you give the 7 to your student, and your student receives that 7, and he sees the 7, and he says, I passed. And you inside, you say, what? 7 is not good, guy. But they say, I passed. and they think they are doing it all right, but they are not, right? Because it's a 7, and probably for you, a 7 is not good. So that's why it is important to tell them what that 7 means. Sometimes the students are used to get tens or hundreds or A's, right? And you give the student a 9. And it's not because you think he's a bad student. It's not because you think he's not improving. Just give it a 9 because it's a number. And according to the mistake they made, they got a 9, right? And they see the 9 and they say, oh, a 9. No, I always get 10. Oh, why did I get a 9? No? So that's why it is important not only to give numbers. Mhm. There it is, so it's important to give feedback, right? To tell them, right, what that 9, what that 8, what that 10, what that 7 means, right? Probably in the previous one they got 7 the previous month, and this month they got 7 too, and there is no improvement in the grades because sometimes it happens, right? That sometimes the previous month they behave really bad and this month they behave better, but it's the same score, right? And what happened to your students? Imagine your students, if they behave bad the previous month, if they behave good this month, they behave really well, but they get the same score, how do you think your students feel? Yeah, they feel like, well, I the last month I behaved bad and I got 7. This month I behaved well and I got 7. What? This is not good. I'm going to behave bad every day. I get 7, right? Because sometimes the exam, right, is very cold. It's cold, right? It's not warm. It's cold. It's just like a number, right or wrong. It's just that, right? And sometimes, if the student doesn't get a good score in the exam, the feedback can help them, right? You can write it down, right? Like, Fulanito, right? I know you are getting 7. And it's the same score like last month. But this time, I saw your effort. You are improving, believe me, right? If you continue like that, if you continue working hard, sooner, really soon, sooner than later, you're going to see better results. Don't give up. I trust you, right? And then Fulanito will, how do you think Fulanito will feel? Like, oh, that's good. The teacher notices that I'm working hard, right? The teacher notices I'm doing my best, right? There are two types of feedback. Mhm. Positive feedback and negative feedback. What is the difference? Positive feedback focuses on the strengths of the students, right? Positive feedback focuses on what the students are doing good, what the students are doing good, everything they are improving, and all that. And negative feedback focuses on their weaknesses, right? Their errors, their mistakes. Positive feedback doesn't only focuses on their strengths, on not only on what they are improving, it also gives strategies for they to continue to improving. It also gives support for the students to continue improving, right? It points out the mistakes, of course, but it gives strategies. Negative feedback only points out the mistakes and tell the students what the mistakes are, and only if when you give negative feedback you only tells you're doing this bad, and if you continue doing it bad you are going to get lower grades. So with negative feedback students get demotivated, with positive feedback students get motivated. Look at this. The purpose of feedback is to motivate learners. So positive feedback is the only one who can motivate learners and to help them understand what their problems are and how they can improve. So it's not only telling their mistakes, but also helping them to improve. Feedback can be linked to formal and informal assessment and can be given to learners in the classroom or during individual meetings. This is sometimes, and you need to be really, really a good observer in the classroom, sometimes we are very enthusiastic in our classes, right? And we are very motivated, and we try to do our best, right? And we are very careful, right, on how we talk to the students. And sometimes we want to avoid making feel bad the students, right? But it is important also that we tell the students their mistakes, right? If you don't want to do it in front of the classroom, you can do it in private sessions, right? I'm going to tell you an anecdote that happened to me 1 year ago. 1 year ago, I was giving a TKT preparation course. Mhm. There were around 10 teachers. One of these teachers was not a teacher. She was, what was it, a sales agent, or something like that. She was an elder lady, like around her 60s, right? No, I don't think her 60s, well, reaching her 70s probably. But she wanted to take the course because she was interested about teaching English. She didn't have any experience. And of course, during the course, she had a hard time. She was the lowest of the whole class. And when she used to make mistakes, I would always tell her, this is what I would tell her. I would tell her, good job, good job. Her name was Anna. Good job, Anna. Good job. You are improving. You need to try hard. You need to correct this. You need to do that. But good job, right? And then she would do something else, and I would say, great, good, right? And then after the exams, right, I will tell the exams and I would say, okay, congratulations to everyone. You guys did an excellent job. Here are your exams. And I would give the exams. And I would tell Anna, you need to improve. And just that, But I would always tell her, because I always do it. I always tell my students, good, you're doing it good. Excellent. My mistake with Anna is that I never, and this is true, and it was my mistake, and I can see it now. I never had a private meeting with her. I never had a private meeting. I never had a moment to tell her, Anna, I'm worried. You're not working hard enough. You're not reading at home. You're not doing your homework. To tell her her mistakes. I assume that because she was an adult, she would understand it. I assume it. And by the end of the course, Anna complained about me. she uh, she complained very bad about me. She told me many things, that she didn't like my class, that she didn't learn, that she felt that I was making fun of her, right? Because I always told her, good job, while in the exam she didn't get good grades. And she says, is that the teacher makes fun of me? And I said, like, no, I never make fun of you. And she says, yes, you make fun of me because you tell me, good job, excellent, you're doing good, and you know it's not true, right? So that was my mistake. So it is important that in the classroom you motivate your students, but it's also important to tell them their mistakes and to let them know that you are worried about them, right? Sometimes we want to avoid, right, that awkward moment, right, where we talk to them and we tell them all that, but it is necessary, right? It is necessary. And it doesn't, I insist, this is not only with children. This is not only, we sometimes think, oh, is that these meetings or these talks or talking to the parents is only with the children. This type of feedback. No. Honestly, no. The majority of my work is with adults and with teachers, and I can tell you, we teachers need it. And if we need it, our students need it. Doesn't matter their ages. So, yes, in the classroom we are nice. In the classroom we are enthusiastic. But yes, it is important to have these type of sessions where you let them know their mistakes, right? Of course, in private, because you don't want to expose them in front of the group, right? But they are really important. Really, really important. Some things that you can do, and this is a strategy that has worked for me a lot with teenagers, especially, is that the first individual meeting or group meeting, depending, right? It's just a nice talk, like, hey, I'm worried, and this and that, pam, pam, pam. If the misbehavior or the situation continues, I hold a second meeting, and on the second meeting, I tell them the same, but I make them sign. I tell them this is the situation. Previously, I write the situation there, and I tell them, okay, now I want you to think about what is your commitment to solve the situation. Sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they say, like, I don't know, teacher, my commitment, I don't have any commitment. So I tell them, okay, don't tell me now. I'm not gonna tell you what you need to do. I want you to tell me what you are committed to do, because previously I already told you that we had a problem and that we needed to solve it. So, this is the problem. How can we solve it? I want you to be committed. And I tell them, don't tell me now if you don't want. Tell me tomorrow. I see you tomorrow at this time. Okay? And the following day, we gather again, and I tell them, okay, what is your commitment? And they say, okay, teacher, well, I'll do my homework. Okay, write it down. Oh, I'll do this. Okay, write it down. And sign it, right? And I sign it. And I have it signed, right? It's very important. And if that continues, the third time, well, it depends on your school policies, but the third time can be with the parent, or it can be with a coordinator, or it can be with the principal. It depends on you, or it depends on the school policies. So that's something that I do with the private sessions, with the private meetings with my students, especially with teenagers. With adults, I guess I don't have those many problems, because I usually talk to them and they understand and they do it. And the only time I didn't do it was with Anna, and I regret it all my life. Okay, here Alejandro says sometimes we omit feedback because we compromise the relationship with parents, and they don't understand the purpose of feedback. They misunderstand it. Mhm. As I said, no, previously, no, you can go little by little, right? You probably don't have to go to the parents right away. You can start with private feedback, then a letter, commitments, and if nothing happens, when I hold a meeting with the parents, I always try to have evidence, because parents never believe you. So if I have the evidence of the letter of the student who said I'm gonna do my homework and everything, and I have my list of homework, and I tell, look, your son said this, but he hasn't done it. I just focus on the facts. But yeah, okay. Peer feedback is useful for all learners. It can have positive effect on classroom dynamic and can make our learners autonomous. Peer feedback is beautiful. I'm gonna tell you a story. This is I told you a failure story about Anna. Now I'm gonna tell you a successful story about one of my students, and this student improved a lot with feedback. This is the story of my student Lily. Oh my goodness, Lily is the most difficult student I have ever had, because she didn't speak English at all. She was around her 30s, but she had a really, really bad issue with pronunciation. She would say, what is your name? My name is Lily. Oh, I was like, oh my goodness. Like really, really bad. Like she struggled a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. I used to stay after class and do many things. And there was a point where I was desperate. I was desperate. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know what else to do. So I thought about one technique, and this technique was using a can do list. Mhm. Checklist, actually. So every day at the end of the class, every single day at the end of the class, I used to write on the board as a wrap up. Guys, today, for example, let's say today we learn about countries and nationalities. So we're going to do this. I can name 5 countries in English. Mhm. I can name their nationalities. Mhm. I can, um, well, what else we were doing? Ask for nationalities. I can say my nationality. Okay, so this is one example. Okay, so I used to do this on the board, and I used to ask a student by a student, right? First, the smarter the students, right? I can name 5 countries. Okay, you tell me 5 countries. Okay, five. Mexico, Japan, China. Okay, I can name their nationalities. Now you tell me the nationalities. Mexican. Yeah, oh, perfect. Can ask for nationalities. Ask Fulanito for his nationality. What's your nationality? Where are you from? I'm from here. Okay, I can say my nationality. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from here. Perfect, one by one. And I used to tell them to write this on their notebooks and check it if they did it, or cross it if they didn't do it. Of course, of course, every single day, every single day, most of them had all of them checked. So, by the end of the day, the students were like, I used to tell them after the activity, you see, you learned something new today. You learn something new, you are learning, you are improving little by little. Good job. Congratulations. Tomorrow we learn 4 more things. Okay? Okay. At the beginning, Lily was close to English. She thought, I don't like English. I am not learning. I'm never going to learn. I'm not good for this. But using this little activity every single day, everybody, but especially Lily, which was the one that I had more troubles, started feeling more confident. They started feeling more confident, more willing to learn, more open to English. And I used to tell them, okay, now you are going to do it with your partner. Okay, you check your partners and your partners check yours, so ask each other. So they used to ask each other, check each other, and they used to give feedback to each other. Like, do you think he is learning? Oh, yes, he is. Do you think Fulanito is learning? Oh, yes, he is. What do you think Fulanito needs to improve? He needs to improve this. And sometimes the students don't believe you because you are the teacher. And they think, you are the teacher. You need to be nice to me. It's your obligation. But when the students say it to them, their partners, they believe it. They say, oh my goodness, I am learning. And to make this story short, well, Lily now is by the intermediate level. She's learning very well. She's speaking English. She traveled to Cancun like before this, before the coronavirus. And she told me she met a boy there and she had a conversation and she was very happy. I was very happy too because of that. And it was through feedback. Through feedback, right? Feedback was the key, right? The students felt more open to learning because they were interacting and they were checking that they were actually having an advance. Mhm. So feedback is the key for many things, everyone. Mhm. Feedback should be positive. During feedback, we can revisit or recycle language, like these examples I gave you. It is useful to give learners oral or written feedback in assessment in addition to giving them scores. Mhm. So this is about feedback, ladies and gentlemen. Did I lose you or you're still there? Yeah, perfect. Excellent. I'm glad that you are still here. Okay, so we have here given feedback. And over there, on the board, we have one activity we're going to do. Well, it's right here. It says, "What is the purpose of this?" Okay, so we have here to encourage students. So this is some. So these are aims. Let me see. Okay, okay. We're gonna do it the same way we did it yesterday. I'm going to write something on the board. You need to read it and you need to match it with one of these aims. Okay, let me see. This is what the teacher did. Look, let me see. Correction, code, improve their work. Okay, this is what the teacher did. The teacher marked students' grading using a correction code. Then she gave them time in the lesson to improve their work while she monitored. So this is what the teacher did. This is what the teacher did in order to correct, in order to give feedback. Now, what was the purpose? Let me show you. What was the purpose? It's right here. What was the purpose for that? To encourage students to monitor their own spoken language, to develop students' oral fluency and accuracy, to focus the students on the pronunciation of the target language. Probably this is too long, right? Look at this. I'm going to do this better because probably you're going to forget. It's too much information, not like the last time. So I'm going to write it here so you can see it at the same time. Mhm. There you go. Mhm. I'm going to put it red. There you go. So this is what the teacher did and what is the aim of this. Why? Why did the teacher do that? So the teacher marked the students' writing with a correction code, and then the teacher told the students, okay, you have some time, check your mistakes, improve your work, and she walked around and she monitored. Why? What do you think? Magda says E, to encourage peer correction target language. Trini says G, to re-clarify the target language for the whole class so the students can use it correctly. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait a second. Mhm. Okay, D. Okay, we have a lot of ideas here. Many different G, D, E. Okay, no more ideas? To encourage focus. on content rather than form. G, D, 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 D. The majority says D, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, is the D. So the students can pay more attention about what they write, and the students can correct it. Okay, perfect. It was the letter D. The letter G, I don't think so because it says the whole class. So it implies that the teacher would do it to the whole class, and this is individually. The letter E, it says peer correction, so it means that the students have to do it one to each other. So this is not like that. Okay, another one. Another one. Let's do this. Remember that this course is taken from the TKT course. So these exercises that I'm giving you are TKT exercises. In case one of you don't have the TKT, later you will be able to take it. Actually, this is from the module 3. Now, in a discussion, the teacher listens and only comments on the student's ideas, not their language, only on the ideas, not on their language. They can be repeated, okay? This is something important. They can be repeated. It's not that this is repeated, but it's just general information. To encourage students to mentor their own spoken language, to develop our fluency, to develop students' fluency. Fluency, the majority says about the fluency. Okay. Well, in this case, since since the focus is on the comments, I mean the idea, sorry, on the ideas and not on the language. Yes, in this case, what we're talking about is that the students are going to focus on the content. Is one more time the letter D because they focus on the content, on the ideas, not on the form, not on the language, not on the mistakes. So this one was, one more time, letter D, everyone. Okay, let's look at the next one. There you go. Oh, oh, I erased it. Sorry, do it again. There you go. Mhm. During a practice activity, the teacher notices the students are having problems with form and meaning. The teacher stops the students and focuses again on the problem areas. The teacher stops, right, and focuses on the areas. All right, ladies and gentlemen. In this case, the correct answer is letter G. Good job. To re-clarify, because they are doing a practice activity, so it means that the teacher previously taught this and they are practicing, but they're making mistakes. So since they are making mistakes, right, the teacher stops and the teacher gives more information, and then so the students to the whole class, so the students can use it correctly. So it's the letter G. Good job, letter G. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, we have time. Occasions. All right. It says during a discussion activity, the teacher briefly interrupts on two occasions and when the students are unable to understand each other. F, the majority says F. Yeah, I guess everyone says this. And in this case, is the letter F. I'm sorry to say for the other ones that it is the letter F. The teacher interrupts briefly, right? And then they need to continue. They need to retake the communication. So to ensure the activity is able to move forward when the communication breaks down. So the teacher breaks the communication and he wants to see if they are able to retake the activity. So yes, it was letter F. Sometimes it's a little confusing, right? You try to picture yourself in the classroom. What would you do? Why would you do it if you were a teacher? Students use recordings of themselves to correct their individual language mistakes. So students, remember what I told you about the WhatsApp. So the students use the recordings of themselves, like the WhatsApp. Mhm. Yeah, good job. It's the letter A, to encourage students to monitor their own spoken language. Yes, good job, everyone. Mhm. And let's go to the last activity before we move on to another topic, and actually the last topic. Uh-huh. Let me see. Word stress. Teacher response by. It's like this. During a drill of some lexical items, it means some vocabulary. Several students are having problems, with some of the word stress and vowel sounds. The teacher responds by giving them individual drills. So during drills, some lexical says several students are having troubles, okay, with the word stress and the sound. So the teacher gives them individual drills so that they do it individually. Yes. Good job, everyone. Yes, it is that. Yes. Very good. Very good, everyone. Very good job. Okay. All right. I have one more thing to share with you today. I have actually two more things to share with you today. And one special gift that I'm going to give you. We only have 15 minutes, but these topics are not particularly difficult. These topics are easier. So I'm going to do it a little fast. I'm just going to explain it to you. And because I also want to give you a special gift, that I want to mention a special gift that I was looking for you, especially today, about a workshop I previously gave. Many years ago I gave it, and that I'm gonna send it to you. Okay, look, it says grouping learners. Grouping learners means the way we group our students inside the classroom. Mhm. There are two main ways in which a teacher can group learners in the classroom. The first one is when he or she chooses a particular interaction pattern. There are different interaction patterns. We have open class. Open class is that the teacher is in front, or the student is in front and talks to the whole class, and the whole class listens. Pair work, that means that the students work in pairs. Group work, that means that the students work in groups, 3 people, 4, 5. Mhm. Individual work, that means the students work individually. Teacher to learners, that means that the teacher is speaking to the students, to all of the students. Learners to teacher is, for example, if the students are making an exposition, right? They're speaking, and the teacher is listening. So one way is that you choose the way you want your students to work. Do you like choosing an interaction pattern? In the second one is when the teacher decides to group the learners according to their needs or learning styles, personalities, or relationship. For example, the teacher can decide on when deciding how to group learners, we need to consider the teaching aim. So, what is the purpose of the activity? The ability and level of the students. So, if your students are very young, probably they're not gonna work in teams, right? They're not gonna do anything, right? The class size. How many students do you have? Mhm. Previous experience. If you know you did this before and it didn't work, then probably you're not gonna do it. But you can repeat it on different classrooms, or you can improve it, right? Probably didn't work with one group, but it doesn't mean it's not going to work with the other group. Mhm. All right. Previous experience of the learners, the activities that you have chosen, the balance of interaction patterns, and the group dynamics. So, what is the dynamic that you follow in the group, and that you don't want your students to work all the time individually? You want them to work in different interaction patterns. Okay, I'm gonna show you a picture. Let me see. Here is it. Look at this picture. In this picture, the letter S means student, and the letter T means teacher. Okay? So listen up. Mhm. I'm going to read. I'm going to read. I'm going to read it because I want to do it faster. Mhm. And you need to tell me what picture I am describing. Okay? I'm going to describe one picture. Mhm. And you need to tell me what picture. They have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? These are called interaction patterns. That's how they are called. I'm going to write it right here. Okay, interaction patterns. So listen to the description. Okay, there you go. Listen. Students walk around the room, meeting and talking to different people. Which one am I describing? What number? It says students walk around the room meeting and talking to different people. And yes, I'm describing number 9. And this interaction pattern, number 9, is called class mingle. Mhm. Class mingle. That's how it is called. Mhm. For example, class. One student can work with another student, and then he goes and approaches this one, and then this one, and then this one. These three work together, these two together. I mean, they are moving around, right? It's not that they are only with one person. So this interaction pattern is called class mingle. Mhm. Look at this other. Mhm. Students work together with some students leading from the front, perhaps doing a presentation or showing their work. Yes, is the number 4. And what you can see here is students in open class. Mhm. Students in open class. Good job. All right, let's see the next. Students work, students sit in rows, working in pairs, sitting face to face or back to back, not in front of the whole class. Not in front of the whole class. Mhm. They're very similar, right? I said they can be face to face. Mhm. Yes, it's the number 6, right? Because I said they are face to face, and the number face to face, the number 6, they are face to face, right? They interact one to each other, right? Face to face. This is called like that, face to face. Okay, let's see. Students work with a partner doing pair work. This is very easy. Is the number 5, right? The number 5 that we just did is the pair work. Okay, I'm going a little fast because we're almost done. Students work with a partner doing pair work. Next one. The teacher leads the class, and all of the students are focusing on the teacher rather than working alone. All the students pay attention to the teacher rather than working alone. It is the number 1. Yes, this is the teacher in open class. All right, look at this. One pair of students does a pair work activity from their seats from the rest of the class, perhaps to demonstrate an activity. So there is one pair of students that want to demonstrate an activity. Yes, it's the number 2. This is called open pairs. Good. Next one. Students working individually. Students work individually by themselves. What do you think? Yes, of course. Yes, it's the number 7 individually. Next one says students work in small groups talking together, not in front of the whole class. Yeah, no, because they say not in front of the whole class. It would be this one, the number 3. Mhm. It is group work. They work in small groups, but not in front of the whole class. This is the last one. Students work in two teams, two groups for competition or discussion. There is no more. It has to be number 8. So this is teamwork. So there is a difference between group work and teamwork. In teamwork, there are only two teams. In group work, there can be many teams as possible. So open pairs. So it's two students that represent something to the whole class. Pair work. Pair work is also called closed pairs. Face to face. Students to open class individually, class mingle. So these are the different interaction patterns. This can help you for your lesson planning a lot. Instead of telling my students are going to work in teams of 4, you can say only group work, or so. Mhm. Class mingle, no, and so. Okay, and very quickly, I'm gonna read this slide. It's very short, and I'm gonna share with you a little bit more information. It says during the lesson, the teacher needs to manage the activities and the learners in different ways. This means he or she needs to behave in different ways in different stages of the lesson. These behaviors are called teacher roles. Here are some roles teachers often use. A teacher needs to be a planner, an informer, a manager, a monitor, an involver. That means making sure all learners are taking part in the activities. A parent or friend to comfort learners when they are upset or unhappy. Diagnostician is able to recognize the cause of learners' difficulties. Resource can be used by learners to help and advise. We need to be able to choose the teacher role which are appropriate to the age and level of the learners, the stage of the class, the purpose of the activity. The correct choice of appropriate teacher roles will help the learners run more smoothly and will make learning and teaching more effective. Roles can change in different stages of the class. Before the class, the teacher is usually a planner and diagnostician. During the lesson, is more an informer, manager, monitor, resource, parent, or friend. After the lesson, is more a diagnostician and a planner. So these are different teacher roles, teachers. Okay, uh, the time is almost over. With this, we finished this beautiful and interesting presentation. Before working for English Access, I used to work for a company called Cambridge Institute here in Acapulco. And over there, I gave a presentation about discipline. And in this presentation about discipline, I talked, about the different types of students. So the types of students, but not about the good students, the bad students. So here in this presentation, I talk about the types of bad students that we have, the students who behave bad. The name of the behavior, for example, this is the agitator. What the student does, it says the behavior tries to cause trouble, gets others, tries to appear to be innocent. All the students does. And some actions that you can use for that student. So some recommendations. So action, what you can do. For example, for that one, there are 14 recommendations. Then you have another one here, the apathetic, right? The behavior, and it says all the behavior, and it says actions, the actions. Then we have the attention demander, the behavior, and the actions. So practically, you have that. Mhm. You have that, which is the different types of students, misbehaviors, and some actions you can do. So I'm gonna send you these to your emails. I hope that you can read it. It is really interesting, and you can use it to have a better discipline and a better control of your students. Sometimes we are like, what can I do to this student? Oh, you have a lot of ideas there. So I didn't have time to explain all this. It's a very long topic, but I'll send you the information and you can read it. Unfortunately, that school is not anymore here in Acapulco, but I have that information and I'll send it to you. Okay, so it's for free. You don't owe me anything. Don't worry. Okay. So other thing that I'm gonna send you is my presentation of this class. I'm gonna send you my presentation too, and a diploma, right, about this class, a diploma. So you will receive the presentation, the PDF, and the diploma. And the video of the class, of course. The video of the class, I guess, Nicte, because I will send this to Nicte, and Nicte will send it to you. So I guess Nicte will send it to you probably tomorrow. Uh, for me, it's been a pleasure. I really hope that something that we saw here was helpful for you, that you learned something, and that you, the most important is that you can use this, right? Uh, Remember, being teachers is difficult. It's not like something really easy to do. But if you keep on trying and looking for more tools and more things, you're going to improve a lot. When I started teaching, I felt lost, but when you have that eager motivation of being better, you certainly do it. So, thank you very much to all of you. I really appreciate it. Not all of the teachers are open to learn. You are open to learn. I recognize that. And I hope that you keep on trying, becoming better teachers. Thank you very much. And I'll see you soon, hopefully in another workshop. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Rest, be safe, don't go out, stay home, and have a wonderful evening. Good job, everyone. Greetings, nice meeting you, and goodbye. Thank you, Nazaria. See you soon, Alejandro. Bye. Thank you, Magda. Thank you, thanks a lot. Thank you, Blanca. Goodbye. Bye, Nazaria. Bye. See you, Karina. Goodbye. Goodbye, Trini. Goodbye. Bye, Maria, Karina. Bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you, Cynthia. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Maria. Thank you. You too.